town in mourning as Canadians grieve for Tumbler Ridge. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Residents of Tumbler Ridge gathered last night for a candlelight vigil as the community came together to grieve after one of the worst mass shootings in Canadian history. The attack claimed the lives of 9 people, including the perpetrator. 25 more were injured. The victims include 5 students at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School, 3 girls and 2 boys, and a 39-year-old teacher. The perpetrator's mother and 11-year-old stepbrother were also killed. Their bodies were found in a home after the rampage at the school. Among the wounded is 12-year-old Maya Gabel. She was shot twice and is in critical condition at the BC Children's Hospital in Vancouver. Our City News Vancouver colleague Jack Rabb reports.
She's just a beautiful little girl, outgoing, just a ray of life.
Wish me luck. It's a message that's taken on new meaning for 12-year-old Maya Gabala as the young girl fights for her life in BC Children's Hospital after being shot twice, once in the head and once in the neck during the Tumbler Ridge mass shooting.
Had surgery yesterday to try and repair the brain bleed, and they're waiting to see how she responds to that. She's got a lot of swelling right now, so her prognosis is unknown.
Maya remains in critical condition, with doctors placing her in a medically induced coma to treat the gunshot wounds. Her family saying it's not clear whether there's still a bullet lodged in her neck. Family members say she sustained her injuries while trying to protect her peers.
She tried to lock the door of the library from the shooter to save the other kids. And she tried to lock it and then ran under a table, and he shot her.
Krista Hunt, the cousin of Maya's mom, says it was a classmate who realized Maya was still alive after the carnage had subsided.
She wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for her student friend that saw her finger move and said, I think she's still alive. And they hauled her out of there, and she got quick care because of that child, so could have saved her life.
Police had initially said there were 9 victims, but that was revised to 8 on Wednesday.
Initially, it was believed that one of the victims, a female with significant injuries, who was transported from the scene by our members and then transitioned to paramedics, had succumbed to her injuries. Police have since confirmed that is not the case. She is alive, and it was one of the 2 female victims that were airlifted to hospital.
It's not clear whether that person was Maya or the other person in serious condition who's receiving care at VGH. But regardless, Canadians across the country are holding Maya and her family in their thoughts. As Maya tries to hold on. In Vancouver, Jack Rabb, City News.
In Tumbler Ridge last night was the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby. He held a news conference and was asked what he knows about the mental health history of the perpetrator.
I've been briefed by police, by the head of the RCMP. It was a briefing of my role as Premier. Police will share information as they're able to. Within government, we've begun the process of reaching out to Northern Health to understand what interactions may have taken place. There are going to be a lot of questions going forward, trying to learn lessons, to do whatever we can to prevent a horrific event like this from happening again. For tonight, for the immediate moment, this is about the families, it's about supporting the families. My commitment to those families, the people of Tumbler Ridge, the people of BC, is that we will get answers for all of those questions. And we'll make sure that all of those questions are answered through whatever mechanism we need to. But for right now, our main goal, our priority is ensuring those families have the supports they need in the immediate term and going forward here in Tumbler Ridge. And as the days go on, to make sure that they have the answers that they're going to need.
The perpetrator, 18-year-old Jesse Van Rootselaar, identified as female but was born male. The police visited the home several times over the years because of mental health concerns. Van Rootselaar was held several times under the Mental Health Act. During an update, RCMP Deputy Commissioner Dwayne McDonald couldn't say if gender identity issues had any role in the shooting.
It's too early to say whether that has any correlation in this investigation. I think it's important to recognize that this investigation is still in its infancy. We have scenes still locked down the school and the residence while we execute search warrants and gather further evidence and talk to witnesses that may have further evidence for police.
Mayor Daryl Kokoka said the community is one big family, but is going to need help to recover. He said that counselors from other parts of British Columbia have already arrived in town.
You know, I didn't even have, if we had fatalities, if we had people shot. The first thing the Minister of Public Safety reached out and I said, like, we're going to need counselors. We're going to need counselors, boots on the ground tonight or tomorrow. And I want to thank the provincial government. My understanding is today we had 5 counselors from Northern Health. We had 2 available at the community center for the families that have lost loved ones. We had 3 at the community health center for the rest of our community, for the family members of the community. I'm also aware the School District 59 has brought in counselors to support the teachers and the students. And I think that you know, you can't thank the government enough on the quick action to get counselors on the ground with working with their agencies. It is so important when we see a tragedy like this with young lives lost, families don't have their children coming home last night. I think it was really, really important to see that, and I thank the government.
Today has been declared an official day of mourning in British Columbia. The provincial government there was supposed to have its speech from the throne today. That's been canceled. The Prime Minister's office has announced that Prime Minister Mark Carney will travel to the town in the near future. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
There is still much that is unknown in the aftermath of the mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge, BC, such as the sort of interactions the perpetrator had with police and the state of that person's mental health, and the history of firearms in the home. Steve Summerville is a former Toronto police officer and Ontario Police College instructor, and he's also a principal at Stay Safe Programs. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Summerville.
Good day. How are you?
Very good. It's been barely 48 hours since all of this unfolded, but given your expertise, I'd like to know what you think about what you're hearing from the RCMP about the state of the investigation so far.
Yeah, fair question. I'm going to speak to you as a former police officer, 25 years experience, and now over 20 years in the security industry, where our main focus has always been and still is to keep people safe. I believe, before I provide an opinion, though, we also need to take a look at this entire incident with a really strong investigative rigor. We need to look at the situation, if I might say, without bias, without favor, without an agenda, and review every aspect of what's happened in Tumbler Ridge on Tuesday. And you indicated perpetrator. I won't say the name of the shooter, but we have to examine the shooter's motives, their methods, and the opportunities that may or may not have had. And bottom line, as we review this horrible, tragic act, we need to take a look at how it can be prevented, and if so, how so, and if not, why not. I'd also suggest we need to take a real deep look at any systematic gaps or individual lapses, if you will, with respect to gun control or policing initiatives, or even mental health issues. And we need to identify whether they played a factor here, and if so, to what degree, and what's the next steps. And not being political, we also might need to review, probably out of the scope of today's interview, but federal and provincial legislation that may be a causation or may be preventive measures moving forward.
Okay. We know the person alleged to be responsible for this was visited multiple times by the police over the years. Right. In your experience, what prompts such a call, and what do the police take into consideration?
Fair question. Depending on the nature of the call, police would attend either an individual calling themselves or family members or people concerned about behavior. Behavior is a scope. If it is within provincial legislation, we're talking about mental health issues. If the person shows behaviors or traits towards self-harm or harming others or not being able to care for themselves, there is a duty for police to take that person into custody on the mental health legislation, take them to a nearest psychiatric facility, provide that information to a clinician, and afford that individual, an opportunity to receive help. That would generally be the extent of policing in Canada with that role. Police as well, through spontaneous encounter with members of the public, you can come across a situation where there's an incident where, without any previous history or without any real sense of risk, a person is displaying symptoms associated with mental health or crisis, where the apprehension is definitely required. I understand, and there again, my facts are limited to what I've received in the media. I'm not taking a look at a police file. So I'm very aware of accuracy. I'm very well aware that sometimes things may not be completely consistent with reality. But if a person's residence is flagged, and that can very well be for risk to officers or the community, the police still have to maintain the balance of lawful authority, lawful intervention. Often mental health treatment is up to the role of clinicians and family to make certain that's required. And often police are left out of that mix. It's usually a clinical intervention in care or outpatient care, whichever the case might be. And then we get to the situation, something like this is now raising questions.
I want to talk about the firearms issue here. If there's a person, they're having a mental health crisis, and there are firearms in the home, what's the protocol there for law enforcement?
Good question again, Rob. Well, firearms, I'm not even certain what the firearms used in this incident, how they were obtained, where they were obtained from. I don't know who was the owner of the firearms. I think that's the first issue. Unless that's being released, I'm not aware of that at this time. But if there are firearms kept in the home, you need to make certain that it's lawful possession, that the firearms are locked down, they're secured. Initially, when a person applies for a permit or the opportunity, lawful authority to be in possession of firearms, generally speaking, you're also going to be receiving a visit from a police officer within your community to determine where you're going to secure them and if they're safely secured. And they should not be easily or readily available. It should only be available to the owner. And that is usually a system that is ensured before a permit or the lawful authority to possess firearms is granted. If there is a breach where something is done in the home or individuals in grasp, if you will, firearms or ammunition that could be used for the firearms, that could lead to seizure and seizure of those weapons. It could be a court order. It could be done spontaneously. We had police intervention. Police have a duty to remove those weapons, and it's now left up to the judicial system to determine what will occur with those weaponry. Despite good systems, despite, they're locked into a safe, if someone acquires the information how to access them, it might be without the knowledge or the scope of the owner that occurred. But even in this particular case, I'm not certain which firearms or whose firearms we're speaking about. Hopefully they answered your question in that area.
Okay. Well, I want to come back. I have a follow-up question about firearms because there were firearms that were taken out of the home, but then the lawful owner petitioned to have them returned, and they were returned. I want your insight on that. When we return, this is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Here with Steve Summerville, former Toronto police officer, Ontario Police College instructor, principal at Stay Safe Programs. As I mentioned, Mr. Summerville, there were firearms in this home. They were taken away. This is all in the news media. The lawful owner petitioned to have them returned. They were returned. What do you think of that?
Yeah, Unfortunately, we don't have the basis as to why they were seized or forfeited, and I don't have a scope of the evidence regarding the petition on return. This information is not judged upon by police. This is in a courtroom. This is in front of a judge. There has to be a legal argument provided to the court to indicate as to why the firearm should be returned to me. I don't know if it's a safe storage issue or suggested competency of the gun owner. I don't know what that would be. But you would have to met the litmus test as provided in a courtroom to have that returned to you. That's nothing to do with the police or the community. That would be the scope of the courtroom to determine that the evidence provided to them made sense to the point where the firearms without risk to the community could be returned. And that particular, whatever that was returned to the rightful owner at that particular moment, if there's a trust in the court system, would be that fulfillment the obligation was met.
I understand. The fact that this happened in small town Canada, in northern British Columbia, and not in a big city like Toronto, where there's access to many more services, mental health services, community outreach services, what sort of pressure does that put on law enforcement, especially law enforcement in a small town?
That's a great question. As we move throughout our nation, we have laws and statutes in place to provide services and level or layer of protection. In smaller communities, you're quite right. I believe that services or resources are stretched thin. You may not have the expertise. You may not have the resources. Similarly, even in areas outside of Toronto, you sometimes have to come in Toronto to receive a particular clinical viewpoint, visit with a physician, surgery, whatever the case might be. I'm not familiar specifically, with Tumbler Ridge, BC, but I imagine there's an awful lot of outreach programs. The community is a little over 2,000 people, I believe, Rob, if my information is correct. Obviously, we don't have some of the areas such as you would have in larger locals. So you may have the services somewhat cut back. Policing community is small there. I believe we had 5 in the detachment, the local detachment. And it's unlike in larger cities where you have a tactical team or an emergency crisis team or a special weapons and tactical team, whichever the case might be. Those usually have to be brought in from outside the community. A resource, even the policing community, with something of that magnitude, you make the call. From the time that the call is provided, sent out, how long does it take to gather the resources and get them within the community? These are all areas that smaller communities, unfortunately, have to live within their community. And the expectation, where I come from, and I'm saying this to the utmost respect, a lot of schools have to practice lockdowns to get into a school. You just can't walk in off the street in a lot of schools that I'm familiar with. Even when my kids were going through school, you had to go through a buzzer system to be granted access via the office. You had to identify yourself. Perhaps you knew the staff, perhaps you didn't. And you'd state the nature of your business. And you're on video camera. And if you didn't meet that obligation, you were turned away or you were granted access. That I'm not certain that's at this school. I have no idea. So how the shooter got into the school, whether it was Nick's insecure door, don't know. I'm just surmising, or whether he had an open door policy. In larger communities, that necessarily doesn't occur. Usually in the network of what I do, especially now for a living, you have active shooter protocols, and you have an operational plan, steps that would mitigate or prevent those from occurring. I don't know. That's another area of transparency that needs to be determined whether that exists in the school. And this is not like out in the public. This is not outside. This isn't a lockdown facility. And generally speaking, no one, and I'm saying this with the spirit of being a father as well, no one should have the spirit of walking into a school without appropriate authority or authorization. I don't know that happens here or not. But we have... We're going to have to wrap it up there.
Mr. Summerville. We're right out of time. I appreciate your expertise. I hope we can call upon you again sometime. Thank you so much. This is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
It's time for our Thursday Newsday panel. Today it's Focus Nova Scotia, so we are going to the land of the snowstorm and the snow day. Welcoming back Jordi Morgan, Director of Strategic Growth and Partnerships for Atlantic Canada at Enterprise Canada. Welcome back, Jordi. Good to hear from you.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Happy to be here.
And Matt Whynot is a former Nova Scotia NDP MLA and political commentator. How are you, Matt? Welcome back.
Not too bad. How's it going? Just came in from shoveling.
Better you than me. I did that the other day. In fact, we probably sent you our snow, so you're welcome to it. Look, I'm looking at the proposed property tax increase for Halifax Regional Municipality, and it's close to 11%. Like 11%, 10.9% property tax increase. Seriously. What is the plan to get that down to a more reasonable number, do you think, Matt? Why not? What do you think?
Yeah, listen, I think, the mayor himself ran on a commitment a year and a half ago to keep those property taxes low as they possibly can. And I think that, he put out a post yesterday, in fact, that told everybody that property taxes are going up 10% each year for the next 4 years. So he's obviously broken his commitment. But at the same time, the worst thing you can do is gut the public service, gut the programs, the libraries, the rec centers, the things that create a social safety net for people who are struggling. And, I look at, there was one of the councillors put a graph the other day that showed that per unit for developers in HRM in Halifax pay $4,200 per unit to develop here in the city. Well, in a city that's similar size as say Winnipeg, it's $43,000, right? So we have the lowest development fees in the country, and big developers are getting off, and I just don't think that's right.
Okay, well, if you raise development charges, you're automatically raising the cost of housing. Do you really want to do that, especially in a place like Halifax, where apartments are going, used to be less than $1,000 a month, are now $2,000 a month, and homes that were once say $250,000 are now $500,000. Let's hear from Jordi.
Well, no,
let's hear from Jordi first.
Yeah, let
Jordi
Matt
wants in there. Let's hear from Jordi
behind this. I was hoping Matt would provide some logic behind that, because that is just so far off the mark. Is that the development costs that have been hitting builders and developers and everybody else are primarily responsible for the cost of the rents that we have. It is nothing other than, and it is not a matter of greed. The money has primarily been funneling back into civic and provincial governments. So that's number one. Secondly, if you're looking at the $88.9 million increase in municipal spending, a lot of it is going to staff compensation and benefits. It's going to the inflationary costs across departments. It's going for, the renewed contracts for police and fire services. Yeah, you've got to pay for that, but you can have a look and see what the cost of police and fire services are yourself, and of course ongoing maintenance, road maintenance, which is that some of that money. If we're talking about that, then why in the name of heavens are we sitting here looking at saying, okay, well, wouldn't it be nice to have this AAA bike path network that we're putting in place that is costing us $95 million. And and I was listening to council arguing about this. I don't want to get into the bike path. I know you wanted to talk about this, but look, the bike lane thing is an issue. But one of the reasons you put in these kind of systems is in order to reduce traffic fatalities and make it a safer system. Well, what's happened since this accelerated spending has been going on is more people are dying in the streets. We had a councillor who was in council arguing about this, saying that he is, just tired of killing people in the streets of Halifax. He wants to kill less people than kill more people. And what's happened is that since all of this infrastructure has been put in place for bikes, nothing has happened except traffic collisions and fatalities have been going up. So no matter how beautiful your strategy, sometimes you should look at the results.
Did you want in there, Matt?
There's a lot that I want to unpack there for sure. I would say, I think at the same time, there's a world where, like, for instance, I'm a pragmatist when it comes to a lot of things, and so when I look at things like, for instance, I live out in the burbs, and so one of the things that people in the burbs say is I can't even go and park downtown to go to a hockey game, let alone do the things I want to do downtown. So there are some issues when it comes to that. I mean, I would say there's another example of something that you could look at is the $200 million being spent for a half a kilometer of road on Roby Street, cutting down trees and expropriating houses and the things where all you could do is put a center lane that changes.
I guess what I want to get at
middle of the day
is a nearly 11% property tax increase is massive by any measure, and almost it's out of sync even with some of the larger tax increases in major municipalities across the country. Is there any plan to look internally for savings? Is the city manager going to undergo what they would do in other municipalities, some kind of program review? Are they going to strike a special budget subcommittee to go line by line through the budget and find savings? Just what is the plan? For a lot of people, this will be unaffordable.
Oh, no. I think they are trying to do that. But one of the things the mayor came in saying, look, we're going to try and put a hold on taxation, and there are hard decisions to be made. But one of the things that the council is going to have to do is say, look, there are nice to haves and there are need to haves. There's huge amounts of money that's going into infrastructure, in terms of water infrastructure, that has to be paid for by people in the city. They're redoing the transit system because it's horribly inefficient and doesn't work. So that infrastructure is being built. So there are a lot of decisions to be made around this stuff that are extremely important. But this idea that somehow developers or builders or people who are actually increasing the tax base of the city are responsible for this, that they're not paying their fair share, I think is absolutely off base. What the council needs to do is follow the lead of the mayor on this one and say, look, there are nice to haves and there are need to haves. Let's look at the need to haves.
Okay, we'll be right back. The Prime Minister was supposed to announce his defense industrial strategy in Halifax this week. It's all been postponed because of what has happened in Tumbler Ridge. But what does that mean, and what are they hoping for in Halifax, which already has a large national defense presence and is hoping for more? This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Jordi Morgan and Matt Whynot are here for Focus Nova Scotia this week. It's great to have them back. The Prime Minister was supposed to be in Halifax this week to announce the defense industrial strategy. Jordi, what does this mean for Halifax?
It's a huge deal, Rob. I mean, Nova Scotia has such an enormous defense footprint per capita compared to the rest of the country. We have the Navy, we have the Army and the Air Force all located here. There are huge implications around the new submarine project that's coming. We've got icebreakers that could end up in Sydney as their base port. There are enormous numbers of people, or businesses, I should say, that have an interest in being involved in the supply chain. And this new strategy is supposed to streamline the procurement process so that small and medium-sized businesses and large businesses, of course, can participate in this process in order to meet that 5% goal that Prime Minister Carney has talked about in terms of our NATO obligations. And that's going to mean there's going to be a lot of cash flowing into defense. So how that cash flows in, the efficiency around it, and how it operates, and how businesses can operate and take advantage of it it's just going to have an enormous implication for our economy here in Nova Scotia, for the country at large. But here in Atlantic Canada, this is a pretty big deal, from the shipbuilding strategy on. So we were very interested in what's going to happen. Obviously, we understand why the Prime Minister changed his plans, but we'll be very interested in seeing how this rolls out.
Matt, why not? Same question. What are they hoping
Yeah,
for in Halifax for this?
Yeah, I think what's important to, in fact, I think I mentioned this last time I was on the show. Like, I recently toured the Irving shipyard, and, the fact that shipyard was where it was in 2011 to where it is today, with, over 3,000 people working directly there, with 11,000 jobs, through the supply chain here in the province alone, is a good thing for people. And it's a good thing for good, I would say unionized workers who have a good pension, who family supporting jobs. This is what needs to happen. Now, my caution is, oftentimes when we see, and I'll go political on this, oftentimes when we see, liberals come up with something, it's not necessarily to the benefit of everyday people here, let's say in Atlantic Canada. So let's just make sure that the things we're doing, that the projects that are being brought here are being used by Atlantic Canadians, are being built by Atlantic Canadians, that the services are and the products that we use are being sourced here in Canada. It's a good opportunity to have that industrial footprint that we've been relying on the States for so long. Let's use the people here so that we don't have to rely on the States to build the things that we need to provide to our military members. And that's, to me, also to remind folks, is like, these are military members. They deserve to be given the tools they need to do their job. So whether you work in public service, whether you're a doctor or a nurse or a teacher or you name it, you should be given the tools to do your job. And oftentimes in the military, they're not being able to give them their tools to do their job. So I think that's what's super important. And also remind them that when they come back from conflict, they should be looked after.
I want to ask you about another issue, and that's the Nova Scotia Power application for a rate hike of about 8%. Nova Scotia Power seems to have united everyone against it. Obviously, ratepayers don't want to pay more. The Premier is lambasting the utility, and he has all the opposition parties on his side as well. But will this political and public pressure, do you think, amount to anything, Jordi? What do you think?
I think the last time we were talking about this, Nova Scotia Power is a favorite whipping boy of politicians of all stripes, because I think, when people are in government and in opposition as well, is that they see themselves as a bulwark against the utility. We have a situation where a utility gets, a set rate of return. There are expectations that they're going to be performing, and doing what they need to do for the people of the province in a way that is effective and efficient and without data breaches. So what's happened is, the Premier has been talking about Nova Scotia Power and its performance, and he is very much against downloading more of the costs of generating energy onto ratepayers. The utility has just brought in a new CEO, a fellow by the name of Vivek Sood, lovely man. I think, he's deeply experienced. He was with Sobeys, and for many, many years. He's a honorary colonel in the military. He's just somebody I think is quite competent and well regarded. But the Premier is basically saying, okay, you've got a big job. You're a nice fellow. You got a big job. You better do it, because we're not going to be putting up with, rate increases that are not appropriate. And this is, I think every Premier that we've seen for as long as I can remember, and I've been around for a long time, see themselves as that bulwark against Nova Scotia Power. And I think, Matt, when the NDP was in government, your Premier was in pretty much exactly the same position.
All right. Well, we'll get Matt to respond to that, but we'll have to stop here first. When we come back to Focus Nova Scotia, this is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Here on Focus Nova Scotia today on Now You Know, Matt Whynot is here, former Nova Scotia NDP MLA, and from Enterprise Canada, and no stranger to our listeners in Nova Scotia, Jordi Morgan. I promised you you'd get in there on Nova Scotia Power. How do you see this turning out? Will it bow to public pressure when it comes to a rate hike? What do you think, Matt?
Well, listen. I'm so glad that Jordi brought up the idea that the new president and CEO of Nova Scotia Power is coming from Sobeys, because Sobeys hasn't made massive profits off the backs of Canadians. So, here we go again, another recycled executive coming to another profitable company. The other thing that I'll remind folks is that the premier was nowhere to be seen. Neither was the previous president, who just stepped down yesterday, at the UARB hearings, or whatever the new form of the UARB, until the very last minute. The premier sent in a written response at 3:00 on a Friday, and the following Monday, the Nova Scotia Power said, "Yep, nice to hear from you, but we're going to keep going ahead with it." And so there's got to be some teeth here, and Jordi properly says that when I was elected, we had a big, serious problem. At that time, 93% of our power generation in the province in 2009 was coal power. Now we're at 40% renewable energy. That's a big step forward. The problem is that we have the company like Nova Scotia Power needing to make that guaranteed profit off the backs of ratepayers. And something's got to give here, because we're seeing power rates going up by 10%. We're seeing water rates going up by 18%. We're seeing taxes going up at the municipal level by 10% over the next 4 years, and each year it's got to give. And at the same time, the premier is posting a $1.5 billion deficit this year. So something's got to give.
Okay. Well, yeah, something's got to give, but I just wonder, it seems to me lost in all of this talk about rate hikes. I get the affordability angle. I really do. Is an electricity grid in your province, in Prince Edward Island, here where I am in Quebec, in Alberta, where they're listening to us now. We have an electricity grid that is already stretched to the max. There are big plans for electrification, AI data centers, all of these things. I'd like to know where all the electricity is going to come from if you can't raise rates on consumers. And those are just the facts. And nobody seems to be talking about that. Jordi, you've only got 30 seconds there.
The answer, my friend, is blown in the wind.
offshore blowing in the offshore wind,
but with no proponent coming forward. 26 trips, 26 trips around the world.
Come forward, and Hanwha's coming forward. So there are people that are interested in this. Don't be such a Debbie Downer there, Matt. Come on.
Oh, my friend, don't you worry.
All right. I'm gonna feisty from the start, feisty to the end. I liked it. Nova Scotia, Focus Nova Scotia today. We'll talk soon. Back to shoveling all. Bye-bye. Talkback is coming up next here on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Something different today. Actually, never done this for a full hour Talkback. I really hope you'll participate today. It's going to require that we do a little opening up together. Today's topic is kindness. Kindness. The news of the last couple of days, it's been terrible. It's hard to hear. It's hard to watch it on TV, read about it online or in the newspaper. Such a terrible loss, and so many lives lost in such a senseless and violent manner in the town of Tumbler Ridge. That is now forever going to be linked to this. And when people hear that, Tumbler Ridge, it's going to evoke the same memories that arise when people hear places like Portapic and École Polytechnique. It's always going to be associated with tragedy. And that school is always going to be that school where that happened. And that home will always be that home, that place where that person lived and that happened. And for the residents of Tumbler Ridge, it's going to take a long time to get over something like this, if they ever get over it. And right now, that town is grieving. And the country is grieving right along with it. But there will also be acts of kindness. And hands will be held. And arms will be opened wide. And shoulders will be there to cry on. Neighbors will run errands for their neighbors. Children will be taken care of when they need to be occupied or distracted. And meals will be delivered and snow will be shoveled. And total strangers will offer comfort to total strangers. Because people are kind. Those small acts of kindness probably won't make the news. But you know they'll happen. I want to introduce this topic today because we're coming up to Kindness Week in Canada. Next week is Kindness Week in Canada. Kindness Week was started by a friend of mine in Ottawa. The late Rabbi Reuven Bulka passed away a few years ago. I got to know Rabbi Bulka because he had a weekly radio show on a radio station that I worked at. He was one of the finest men I've ever known. He was one of the happiest, most optimistic people I ever met in my life. Because he genuinely believed that just being kind to one another makes Canada a better place. And he lobbied. I mean, he tirelessly, this one person, lobbied politicians in Ottawa to have a kindness week. And shortly before he passed away, I guess he bended enough ears, twisted enough arms, and made enough phone calls that MPs finally unanimously declared that every year from February 15th to February 21st will be Kindness Week in Canada. And that's his legacy. And it's a great legacy, Kindness Week. He wanted people to lend others a helping hand or volunteer their time or share what they have. Share with others, use clothing, toys. Don't throw that stuff away. Share it. Support a cause. Smile. Have compassion for each other. Sounds so easy. Here's what we want to do today with your help. Kindness Week coming up. Tell us about a time when someone was kind to you. Tell us about a time that someone was kind to you. Tell us about that time someone helped you out. Maybe you were in a jam and somebody helped you out. I have had many such times in my life. And I'll share if you share. But just tell us about that time. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Doesn't have to be a crisis. Someone came along. Maybe it was right out of the blue and gave you a helping hand when you really needed it. Tell us about a time when you thought, gosh, thanks for that. I really needed that. You have no idea how much you helped me. You have no idea what that means to me. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come along. Tell us about that. When someone helped you out with kindness, maybe it's a random act of kindness. Maybe you were, stranded on the side of the road. Maybe you were short on money. Maybe the fridge was bare, or a relative was ill, or you were ill. And someone gave you a helping hand. Maybe you were just overwhelmed with life. Because life is stressful sometimes. Now especially. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Do you know people who have been kind to others and maybe deserve some kudos? Do you know people who have lent a helping hand or support causes or volunteer? What do you do to be kind to others? We'd like to hear your stories today, just about simple kindness, benefiting from the kindness of others. Surely to goodness, someone has helped you out along the way. If they have, we want to know all about it. So give us a call. Our call-in line is 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Tell us your simple story of kindness and how you were helped by others. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is Talkback. It's News Radio.
something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Kindness. We want to know stories that you have about being the beneficiary of a simple act of kindness. Or you can tell us about the time maybe you helped someone out with an act of kindness. Tell us about the time you helped someone out. 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Donna in Kitchener up first today. Hi, Donna.
Hi. What a great thing to be talking about, Rob.
Well, thank you, Donna. Tell us your story, Donna.
Something happened to me last week. I was leaving to go to San Diego to a conference, and I wanted to buy a new purse before I went. And so I went into Lululemon store in Waterloo, and the girl was very interested in where I was going. So I told her I'm going to a rare disease conference because my husband had passed away with a rare disease, and my daughter also has it. And she was so interested in the story. I got up to the register. I had bought a jacket and a new purse, and the purse was $88. And she said, the purse is a promotional gift from Lululemon. So I just wanted to say, I think we need to talk about kindness a lot more, and I think that was just, it brought tears to my eyes. So that's what happened.
Wow. And how was your trip?
My trip was emotional, but it was good, and they're doing a lot of work on rare diseases. And hopefully one day you can do a story on 1 in 12 Canadians suffer from a rare disease. So it's really important.
That's a good idea.
Recognize that. Yes. Okay.
Right. But even just the act of someone being interested,
I know,
can go a long way. Like the discounted purse aside, like just when somebody is interested in what you have to say or what's going on in your life, I mean, that can really be meaningful to someone, right?
It's very meaningful because it's been, a huge part of my life. And I think the more people you talk to about it, the more awareness that's brought forward for other people that are, suffering from a rare disease. And being an advocate is something I was thrown into unexpectedly, fighting the government for treatment for patients. And the name of the disease is Fabry disease. And it's really difficult to deal with sometimes.
Well, look, thank you. All the best to you, Donna. You've got us off to a wonderful start here today. Kindness. Stories about kindness. New Hamburg, Darlene. First-time caller, Darlene. Thanks for calling, Darlene.
Thank you for taking my call. I hope you're not going to get feedback because I'm driving in my car.
Sounds good so far.
It's okay? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say I had a really nice act of kindness yesterday. I go to a Bible study with my husband, and I am a real advocate for prayer. I think it's work, and it's a privilege for me to pray for others. When I just retired, and when we first moved to New Hamburg a few years ago, I had 2 rocking chairs. I sold them because we downsized, so I didn't have any place for it. But I always loved a quiet room to sit there and pray for the world situations, for family, for just people that need prayer. And I went to our Bible study yesterday, and they all presented me with a really nice retirement card and a beautiful cake. And after I thanked them and we talked for a bit, then they came out with this rocking chair, which was super sweet because I couldn't really afford now being retired, and my husband and I have always had to watch our money, that now I have a rocking chair, another rocking chair to start in my retirement. And I thought that was super kind act to me. And I just wanted to share that and acknowledge all those lovely people for doing things like that. Kindness really does matter.
Well, I really hope you enjoy what's to come in your rocking chair. Sounds wonderful. Sounds like somebody gave them the inside scoop about what Darlene would really like.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I love your
very
show.
good.
I love all of your
thank you.
topics, and thank you for having your show.
Well, thank you so much. That's very kind of you. Thanks for calling today. Enjoy your new rocking chair. Kindness. See how easy it is. Kindness. Our topic of the day ahead of Kindness Week. This starts on the 15th. Stories you have about simple acts of kindness. 1-833-668-2577. 3-4 lines available. A story about somebody who maybe helped you out when you were a little bit down. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Kindness, our topic of the day. Stories you have about simple acts of kindness. Dallas in Cambridge. Thanks for calling, Dallas. I haven't heard from you in a while, Dallas.
Yeah, I know. I've actually been working, so unfortunately I can't phone in the middle of the afternoon. I just want to start by saying I always find it funny when I call in and I chat with your call screener out in Calgary.
Curtis.
And if I'm not mistaken, you're in Ottawa, are you not?
Yeah, I'm about 2 hours north of Ottawa, yeah.
Yeah. So I always find that kind of
We're
funny.
all over the place. Yeah, we're all over the place.
He and I chat about the weather, and he says, "Oh, it's nice and warm out there." I'm thinking, okay, so a couple of days from now, it'll be here.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that. It's going to be 12 degrees in Calgary today. If Calgary wants to do an act of kindness for Cambridge and for Ottawa, they can send us their weather for sure.
Well, like I said, probably a couple of days it'll be over here somewhere. But anyways, as far as your question or your statement of first hour there, act of kindness, I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but when my wife passed away about a year and a half ago, I was sitting here. I had very few days to take care of stuff, and they told me that I needed 5 pallbearers. So I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Right.
2 days later, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, gee, I got to find these guys. It took me 5 phone calls, all in succession, and all said yes. And friends, long-time friends, short-time friends, but it was just, they said, yes, I'll be there. Yes, I'll be there. And that was one of the most wonderful things that ever happened in my life.
Wow. That's really something, because you were worried. It sounds like you were worried about it. Like you were on this kind of deadline, right?
Well, all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, I got to find 5 guys. Who do I call?
Who do I call?
Will they say yes or will they say no? That was, and that just.
And nobody said no.
It put a smile on my face the day of. Let's put it that way.
Very good. Very good. It's good to hear your voice. Hope work is going all right for you, Dallas in Cambridge. Yep. Good one. 1-833-668-2577. I think we're going to Calgary next. Heather is in Calgary, where they're going to go up to 12 degrees today. Send it here, Heather. Thank you. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Rob. Good morning.
Hi, Heather.
First time caller.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say I love your show.
That.
I discovered it by accident when I had no TV, and I still listen to you. I just think, first of all, my condolences to the families and the community of Tumbler Ridge. I think the shock is just setting in for me today. Yesterday, I wasn't feeling anything, and I was worried about becoming jaded and numb to things. But today, I'm back to feeling, emotion and empathy and everything. So I'm back to my old self. I just wanted to say, Rob, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say there's a book out there that I think every person should read, regardless of faith, religion, if you're agnostic, atheist. It's written by a former sports writer by the name of Mitch Albom, A-L-B-O-M. He's the author of Tuesdays with Morrie. I'm sure you've heard of that book.
Tuesdays with Morrie?
Yes, have you heard of that book?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, Mitch Albom is the former sports writer for some paper in the States. I don't have that info offhand, but he wrote a very good book called Tuesdays with Morrie, M-O-R-R-I-E. And then he wrote a book shortly after that. And I'm not going to say too much about it because I don't want to give things away. But as I said, I think every person should read it. Get it from the library, get it from a used bookstore, buy it on Amazon, buy it at a local bookshop. It's called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven.
Okay, all right. If you want to come back on, you can come back on. If not, I'll say goodbye.
Hello. 1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talking about simple acts of kindness. Let me tell you a story. It's a short story. Maybe it'll prompt some calls. But the kind of stories I'm talking about. So a couple of weeks ago, it was really, really cold here. It was Sunday. 2 weeks ago this Sunday. It was minus 33. Without the wind chill, it was minus 33. Cold, man, cold. And when it warmed up to about minus 25, I went outside to make sure my wife's car would start so she could go to work the next morning. And I got in her car, and sure enough, battery's dead. Because it's so cold. It died overnight. Dead as a doorknob. No problem, I think to myself. I'll go to my car. I'll start my car. We'll get out the cables. I'll give her car a boost. I get into my car, and the battery in my car is dead too. All right, I say, let's go to the backup plan. I have a little battery charger that I keep for a motor that I have for a boat. But when it comes to charging a dead car battery using this little charger, it can take a few hours. As well, when I go to open the hood of my wife's car to look at her battery, it's so cold outside that the hood of her car is frozen. The latch that would release the hood it's frozen. I have never come across that before. I've been through a lot of cold winters, but never so cold that actually the car hood freezes shut. So I have to go, and I get my wife's. She's not impressed because I go get my wife's very expensive hair dryer, and I'm standing out there in front of her car for like 30 minutes. It's freezing. My hands are freezing. My feet are freezing. I'm standing there, and I've got this hair dryer going, and I'm trying to get in there and defrost where I think the latch is on this car. And finally, it defrosts enough, and the hood pops open. Not 2 minutes after that, this old French guy, he's driving by my place in his pickup truck. And he sees me out there. I've got both hoods of the car open, freezing cold. And he says, you need a boost. You need a boost. And sure, I said. He does a U-E, turns around, comes in, pops the hood, whips out the cables, gets my car started, gets my wife's car started. And he says, there you go. You're the third car I've boosted today. And I thought, what a kind old man. And anyway, off he went, maybe to boost another car or save someone else stranded on the side of the road. And I let both cars warm up for about a half an hour, and then I went inside and got warm. But you see, it's just a little thing. I had never met that man before, and he didn't know me from Adam. But he stopped and he gave me some help, and that was just a couple of weeks ago. Winter living and acts of kindness. Eric in Halifax. Thanks for calling, Eric. You're on the line.
Yeah, good afternoon, Rob. This is a very touching situation for me. I have two things that happened. Well, I did one good deed, and I got a helping hand from a harness driver. I'm out at Mohawk Raceway, and I'm standing in the parking lot. There's not a car to be found. Everybody's gone. Everybody's pulling out and not offering me to drive. Then all of a sudden, this car pulls up. It's Dr. John Hayes from Beamsville, Ontario. And he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to St. Catharines." He said, "Oh, my God." He said, "Well, I could take you as far as Beamsville, but you'll have to find the rest of your way." I said, "Thank you very, very much. I'll never forget that moment as long as I live." And
wow.
I was down here in Halifax. We have a lot of homeless problems, and there was a guy outside of an establishment, and I gave him $10. Now, I said to him, "Don't you spend that anywhere else, but go over and buy something for yourself." He said, "Yes, buddy, I will." So I have numerous kindness things happen to me. You could ask Curtis. Curtis will fill you in on some of the things that have happened to me, but kindness is a great thing. It brings tears to your eyes. It makes you feel good. Even if you're having the worst day, kindness will bring you to the top of the mountain. And that's about all I have to say on kindness.
Well, you've said it. You've said it very well. You had two great stories there, Eric, and great to hear your voice today. Thank you so much. Let's go to Calgary again. Cheryl's in Calgary. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. I'm a first-time caller. A few thoughts.
Thank you for calling.
Of the coin. Two sides of the coin. One is receiving kindness. My thoughts are just get to know your neighbors, and that will be a two-way street. And it's easy, just a 5-minute conversation. You can get a lot of information. A couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and just before my surgery, my neighbors gave me a basket, but the basket was full of things that were meaningful to me because they paid attention to just 2-minute conversations here and there. And then on the other side of the coin, kindness really is a cure for a lot of things. I relate to the gentleman who phoned in whose wife had passed away, and my daughter had passed away, and coming up to her birthday, which is just as hard as passing days, and was really trying to rack my brain on what to do. And we ended up doing a day of kindness in her honor, something that she had started, and she had passed away from complications from type 1 diabetes. But we continued her kindness, and in that kindness, which we do yearly now, and this year will be year 14, it brings us peace and joy. And it's, again, these little acts of kindness, I find that I get just as much joy by giving as receiving, and it is a cure-all for a lot of conditions. And my ending line is, try it, you'll like it.
Try it, you'll like it. I like that. Thank you so much for your call, and all the best to you. And thank you for calling today. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Stories of kindness. Whether you've helped someone, been helped, we want to hear those stories today here on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Gathering your stories on simple acts of kindness today. Alan is up next. He's in Calgary as well today. Hi, Alan.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm very good, Alan. Thank you. What's your story?
First, I should say I'm a first-time caller. My wife's a big fan of your show, and I stumbled onto you today, and you've got a great demeanor, a great radio voice, so I'm glad I stumbled into you today.
Thank you.
Got a couple quick ones. One is, 100 years ago, a long time ago, my son at 2.5 diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, survived it. So the end of the story is really good. But, we were in the worst place in our life. We were pretty good on charitable donations and reaching out, and we've done well for ourselves, but never been in the position to receive. And it's a super awkward position, very humbling. I would come home and the grass would be cut and I don't know who did it. Or they'd be drive-by casserolings, like casseroles at the front desk, and I wouldn't know who did it. And for a little bit, I always try to figure out who it was just to say thanks. And, my wife, who's much smarter than me much of the time, said, Al, just let it go. Let people, this is, they want to help us. They don't know how. This is a great way to do it. And it doesn't matter who did it. And it's tough to receive sometimes, but it was phenomenal and nonstop. And there was a phenomenal group who've got sick kids Cancer Care of Alberta, but it's right across the country. KCCFA is the one here. A brilliant organization filled with people that just for no other reason than helping people through tough times, completely selfless, really allowed us to survive the toughest period of our life. And that was huge for me. It was tough at the beginning, and then it was huge. 20 years later, completely unrelated, I'm claustrophobic. I'm dropping my wife's van off at West Honda, and I got to get to work. And there's the van's going, well, you can get in there if you want to go right away. And it's one of those kind of two or three rows of seats, and the only seat was available in the back corner. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, come on, Al, you can do this. You can do this. And I got into the back seat, and they bring it forward, and you're trapped in there, and my mind's racing, and I get on my phone to play a game for a distraction, and they start to pull out of the lot. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm only going 2 kilometers. And if you're claustrophobic, you understand it. It sounds really silly, but I'm like, I need to get out. I feel trapped. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you pull over? I've got to get out. I can't do this. And this sweet young Filipino lady in the front passenger seat says, sir, you can sit up here if you want. I can sit back there. And I said to her, oh, I love you. Thank you. It was just out of nowhere, right? It's small.
Out of nowhere, yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's cool. We have a corner lot, and once I start that snowblower up, I kind of do 6 houses one way and 6 houses the other way, because it's so much easier when you've got a tool like that. And, somebody had said it earlier, like, try it, you'll like it. It's one of those things that I find that if you're kind to others, it finds its way back to you. And one of the things that my wife had taught me as well is, she's a smart lady, is when you're angry or when you're grumpy, great time to do something kind for somebody else. It level sets you.
It level sets you. Okay. That's great advice from you and your wife. Thank you so much for your call, Alan, today. New Hamburg again. Debbie is in New Hamburg. Hi there, Debbie.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, Debbie.
My story. I'm standing here in my kitchen looking across the road at one of the elementary schools, and they have both flags at half-mast, and I've seen the kids coming and going, and I have one grandchild there, and I have 4 other grandchildren, and by the grace of God, we don't live in Tumbler Ridge, because they could have been one of those poor victims. And my heart, my condolences, my prayers go out to everybody in Tumbler Ridge, all the families. And I think that's everybody across Canada is feeling that way. But the other thing is, I want to vouch for the woman who called in about the 5 people you meet in heaven. I've read the book. I've seen the movie.
Oh, you have? Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
It's pretty awesome. But
Tuesdays for Maury. I looked it up during the commercial break. It's about he reconnects with a university professor, and the university professor has ALS, and he's giving them this life advice, right? Yeah. It sounds interesting.
But the other book he wrote was the 5 people you meet in heaven. And that's what she was talking about, because it deals with random acts of kindness. So, but anyways, why I was, memories that came back. When I was a little kid, I guess I was only around 5 or 6, maybe 7. And I loved Roy Rogers and Gene Evans, right?
Autry?
And
Okay.
Autry, yeah. And I was just walking down to the post office one day, and this, I guess she would have been about 12 maybe, this girl came out from this house who I had no idea who she was, and I don't think she knew who I was. And she said, "Do you want a Gene Autry outfit?" And I'm there, yeah. And she gave it to me. I think I must have worn it for 2 years straight.
Isn't that something? Okay. That's a strange story.
Yeah.
Well, Debbie, thank you. I've got to run, Debbie. Look, great story. I'm picturing you dressed as Gene Autry for the better part of 2 years. Thank you, though, for your call. 1-833-668-2577. I think there's 2 lines there available if you want to grab one. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Stories of simple acts of kindness. Michael in Airdrie up next. Michael, thank you for calling, Michael.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, very good, Michael. I'm enjoying the conversation today.
Yeah, it's really good, really good. Here's kind of a double whammy. I was working at Canadian Tire about 10 years ago after I retired. Just need something to do. And this young lady, it was about a week before Christmas, with 2 kids, small kids. Her car was in the shop getting the flat tire repaired. And the manager from the shop come in and he goes, "We can't allow that car to leave the shop because the tires are so bad." And it was snowing out a bit and everything. And I said to him, I don't buy lottery tickets, stuff like that. My mortgage is paid for. I said, I'm going to buy her a set of tires. And holy crap, he's, okay, yeah, they put them on and everything. She gives me a hug, the kids give me a hug, and I wish them Merry Christmas. And I got called into the boss's office about a week later between Christmas and New Year's. And he goes, "Did you buy a set of tires for a customer?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And he goes, "We're going to reimburse you."
Wow.
On the total that I paid.
Wow.
Yeah. Double whammy, eh?
Double whammy, yeah. Yeah.
That's incredible.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Because you hear so much about, big companies, all the greedy companies and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, but, no. I thought I was going to get shit or something. And he goes, "Did you buy it?" Yeah.
Yeah. You thought you were going to be like, "You can't be doing that." The next thing you know, we're going to be flooded with customers who are going to think the staff is going to buy them tires.
Yeah. No, it was totally the opposite.
Yeah. Isn't that
anyway,
something?
that was
I can only imagine the look on her face. Because she must have been at her wit's end,
Oh, yeah. She goes, "Can I hug you?" And I said, "Sure." And she was teary-eyed and everything. And then her kids, they give me a hug and everything, and it was super. She left with tires, being safe. And
you were made whole. The company did right by you in the end as well.
Yeah, the corporation stood right by me.
Yeah, very good. That's a great story. Thank you for calling and sharing that, Michael, out in Airdrie. Isn't that wonderful? 1-833-668-2577. We are gathering simple stories about kindness today. Tell us about the time someone helped you out, or, like Michael in Airdrie, the time you helped someone else out. 1-833-668-2577. We'll stop here. If you're on the line, just hang on the line. Won't be too long. We're going to bring you right up to date on all the latest breaking news and then right back to more of your phone calls. Full hour just ahead of Talk Back here on News Radio.
It's time to talk back
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Kindness Week. Getting a head start on Kindness Week. That starts on Sunday, by the way. Kindness Week. Want to know stories about simple acts of kindness? Time someone helped you out or you helped someone out? 1-833-668-2577 is a fantastic first hour. Let's keep it going in hour number 2 of Talkback with Tim in Kitchener. Thanks for waiting, Tim. You're on the line.
How are you today? I'm good.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. What's your story?
Well, this is many years ago, but I came home from work one day, and a neighbor moved in across the street. I didn't know. I thought the house was sold, but I think he was just renting, him and his wife. And the second day, he walked past, and he was dragging his left side. So I walked over, and I said, his name was Ken. I says, Ken, what's up? Oh, nothing. He says, I said, how come your leg's dragging? I don't know. He says, something's going on.
Oh, my.
I said, I think you've had a stroke.
Oh, my.
So turns out he gave me his doctor's phone number, so I phoned the doctor. And the doctor said, take him to the hospital. I said, okay. So we rushed him to the hospital, got in. He did have a stroke. He got out, and the doctor said he can't be on loan. It turns out his wife was schizophrenic, and she wouldn't let him on the main floor of the house. He had to live in the basement. So,
oh my goodness.
The doctor said he can't go back there. So I said, okay. So I asked my wife, I says, can we move him in with us? I just met the guy's name. I don't know the guy.
You just met the guy. Right.
And
right.
she said, yeah. So I had 2 girls, young girls. I had doubled them up because we just have a small house. And then I gave him a bedroom. And then my girls doubled up and they had the other bedroom. And so we had him for, I don't know, a couple months until I got him into the hospital and got him out. And then I got him back. When he got out of the hospital, the doctor said he can't go back to that house with his wife. I said, all right. Said to my wife, I says, now what? It's like having a pet. So
right.
We figured it out that we're going to let him live with us until we can figure out how it's going to work for him. And so he did. We got him going pretty good, and he was getting really comfortable with us. And he didn't want to move out. He wanted to just live with us. I said, oh, I can't do that, Ken. And so across the street, I noticed a sign for sale or for rent on an apartment. I said, hey, Ken, look at this. So he got up out of the chair and he looked and he goes, what? I said, see the for rent sign? And, oh, yeah. I hope that'll suit somebody. I said, how about you? So, well, we can look at it. So we walked across the street. And, yeah, it was suitable. It was a basement apartment. And it was only 1 flight of stairs down. And so I got him moved into there. And he was doing very well. And then one day, my wife noticed that night the lights didn't go out. So I walked over and I says, Ken, are you all right? He said, I don't know. Something's wrong. So he had a second stroke. So I got him into the hospital again and got him out. And then got him going again. And he was back with us for a month or so. And then finally the doctor said, I think you should be looking at permanent care. I said, okay.
Yeah, like
so
assisted living.
What are your wishes? Like, where do you want to go? Well, he said, I don't have any. I said, do you have any family? He says, no. Just my wife, that he was schizophrenic and couldn't go there, that's for sure. So anyways, we got him figured out that he was going to go into a retirement home. And he went into the retirement home. I'll speed this up. And he had a third stroke. And I was at work that day. And I got a call. I was on the roof of McMaster University doing something. And they called me and they want to know what Ken's wishes were. And I said, I didn't know he was in the hospital. My wife didn't tell me because she was up late. I was up late. And so I find out he had another stroke. And he's in the hospital now. And so then I had to figure it out. The doctor says this is pretty much going to be it. So when I got him into the hospital, the Dr. Pace said he was diagnosed with diverticulitis, and I'm not sure what that is. But anyways, I think it's bleeding of the bowel or something. And turns out he had a hernia. And when they went to operate that night, they couldn't even do nothing. They needed a thoracic surgeon. So the doctor phoned me at 12:30 at night, said we didn't operate. We couldn't do it. We had to wait for a thoracic surgeon. I said, oh, now what? Well, he said, we'll get it done overnight. I said, all right. So I said, what's the prognosis? Well, he said, I want you to agree to a day of life support, and then we'll wean him off. I said, this is getting pretty technical for me, but I said, okay, I'll agree to that.
Right. Yeah.
A life support for a day and then wean him off and see how he does. And he got 4 more years.
He had 4 more years after that.
Off. Yeah, we had to make some pretty substantial, I guess we'll say, decisions.
Sacrifices. And
but
it sounds like you went above and beyond for someone that you barely knew.
Yeah, I just knew his name, and that was about it. Yeah, and we didn't know. My wife was good. My wife's good-hearted, and she said, let's do it. So we got him looked after, got him going, and then he ended up passing away. But he was a good friend.
Sounds like you were, too.
He was a good guy, you betcha. It was worth it. I'd do it again I don't know about that. It was pretty trying.
I bet it was at times.
One time, my wife cleaned 39 houses a month herself in her own business.
Right.
Plus, we had an antique business.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wrap up our conversation there. But as I say, Tim, it sounds like you went above and beyond for someone who was, pretty much to you at the time a complete stranger and became part of your life for 4 or 5 years. Incredible. 1-833-668-2577. Acts of kindness. How's that for one? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are gathering stories today of simple acts of kindness. Barbara is up next. West Montrose, Ontario. Hello, Barbara.
Hi, Rob. I'm a first-time caller, and I was actually just driving home from an appointment and listening to your show and loving these random acts of kindness, and that last caller was amazing. And anyway, here I am driving home, and I pulled in my driveway. It's gotten pretty snowy here, and my husband is kind of in between getting it blown out again, and it's all patted down. And I'm kind of struggling backing up because my Jeep was kind of jiggling around in the snow, and they're doing construction on the bridge right now, and there's this big Caterpillar guy that has a shovel thing on the front and doing all the kind of work, and he's seeing me struggling, and he goes, hey, I can scrape that out for you. And I was like, whoa, random act of kindness right after I listened to your show. It was like so cool. And I'm like, okay, well, wow, there I go. And this right away, random act of kindness. And I just thought I thought that was so cool. And I'm like,
that's so fitting.
I got to call in and let you know.
You got to call in now. Sure. Yeah, that's great. So what a great story.
That's my immediate thing. So yeah, it was very nice. So anyway, love this show and
thank you.
Doing great.
Well, I'm glad you got home okay. Yeah, and thanks to the heavy equipment operator as well for his random act of kindness to Barbara in Kitchener. Doug is in Kitchener today. Hi, Doug.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Doug. How are you doing?
Good. All right. I've called in before. I really do like your show. It's so many different topics and people sharing them everywhere. There seem to be quite a few people from our area on today because West Montrose is like just northeast of Waterloo. Anyway, you're in Calgary, right?
The show originates out of Calgary. Yeah, I'm actually in the National Capital Region, and not far from Ottawa. I'm in my home studio. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I kind of wondered because I was in the military in Calgary many moons ago, and the traffic reports talk about Crowchild Trail and Memorial Drive. It's like I remember those. Anyway, I drive a delivery truck, not a big one. It's a Ford Transit, deliver deli products, and I'm all over the Greater Toronto area, down Niagara Falls, and even up to Barrie and whatnot. And as you can imagine, a lot of commuters that come into intersections, and there's a lot of people that are standing at those intersections, and I can't believe some of them are standing there in the worst possible weather, and all they're asking for is something, anything. And I'll tell you, some of them look pretty ragged around the edges. They're definitely in dire need. And I always keep try to keep some toonies or a $5 or something in the outside of my lunchbox. So if I come upon them, I'm happy to get it to them if I can. I can't always do it because traffic moves and you can't stop. But when I can, I always do that because. Well, let's see, a long time ago, I know what it was like to be down, not quite that far down, but I know what it was like to need help, and somebody helped me, so it's paying it forward. But you talked about your wife's car. It's amazing you mentioned the story about your car. My wife and I, we both we live on a farm up by Tavistock, which is outside of Kitchener, and we're off work. We're good enough time at Christmas, and it just snowed and blew, and snowed and froze, and to the point where it didn't just kill the battery in my minivan. It destroyed the starter as well. I couldn't get at things. I didn't know what to do. A friend of mine that acts as a mechanic, I called him just to hope he might be able. This man, first off, he did everything he could on the phone to help me find my way underneath the hood, and then he had to go. He didn't say why, but about 40 minutes later, he turned up at the house, and I don't know how he even got an instant drive there. He helped me get the thing sorted out. He took the starter out, and he took me with him. We went and got another one, got it back. He put the whole thing into my driveway, and the battery, the whole works. So I mean, and he didn't ask for a darn thing in exchange for it. He's a very, very good friend. I call him my brother, even though he's not. That's how it was a few years ago. I've never ever forgotten that. Never will. Always try to pay it forward. Have a good one.
Well, you have a good one too. Thank you. Loving the stories today. Simple acts of kindness. That's what we're collecting today. You have one? 1-833-668-2577. Giving or receiving. We're hearing both sides today. 1-833-668-2577 on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Stories about simple acts of kindness. Our topic today. Tina is in Calgary. First-time caller there. Hi, Tina.
Hello.
Hi, Tina.
Hi.
What's
Can
your
you hear
story?
me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Well,
Go ahead.
Perfect. Well, my story happened quite a long time ago. In 2009, my youngest son, who was 9 years old at the time, we were up in Edmonton because he was having open heart surgery. And we were all there, the family, for about 2 weeks. And we were able to go home on Christmas Eve. So Christmas Eve afternoon, we had driven home back to Calgary. And we were kind of like, didn't know how we were going to do Christmas, especially Christmas dinner, because we hadn't been home and I hadn't got to the grocery store. And Christmas Day, while we were sitting around trying to figure out what we were going to do, because we had eaten pretty much, what we could find anyway, there was a knock on my door, and one of our really, really good friends walked in the door with a complete Christmas dinner for us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What was your reaction to that? You must have burst into tears, did you?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time right now not bursting into tears. It was definitely the best Christmas ever. Having our son go through such a trying time. And, I mean, the Stollery Children's Hospital in Edmonton is amazing as it was. But to come home and to be able to take that stress right away and to have everything right there for us, it was amazing. And every Christmas, because this friend of ours is still very, very close, we've had a 25-year now tradition that he comes over to visit every Tuesday night. But this particular Christmas is probably my favorite because of that. So I thank him all the time for his goodness and his kindness.
It's very kind. Thank you so much. That is such a heartwarming story. Gosh, hard not to get choked up about that as I hear it. It sounds like a Hallmark movie, for crying out loud. Thank you, Tina. To Red Deer. Dan is in Red Deer. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Dan.
I got a story. We're a couple summers ago. We were heading out camping just on Crown land with a big group, and a friend of mine had his camper loaded with his wife, the baby, the toddler, the 2 dogs, everything loaded for the May long weekend. And on his way out to the camping spot, his truck broke down. He had a fifth wheel, so none of us could go help him and grab his trailer. And farmer drove by, and then a couple minutes later he turned around and came back and asked what was wrong, and it was pretty catastrophic for the truck, so it was done. But he said to take his truck because he had a fifth wheel, and he gave his truck to my buddy there, and he said it was all his kids are grown up, and he said it's important for to spend some family time and not to miss it. And he said bring it back on Monday, and he gave his truck for the weekend. Just some random farmer, and
just never met the guy before, like a total stranger. Well, you can have my truck.
Well, he saw the whole trucks loaded with everything, before a long weekend, and
sure.
He said the family time is important and don't want you to miss it. So he gave him his truck, and my buddy brought it back all detailed and fueled up, and
good stuff.
The following week. Yeah,
that's great stuff. What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Isn't that something? 1-833-668-2577. Have to stop here, bring you up to date on the latest breaking news. Another busy news day today. We'll do that. And then right back to more of your calls and more of your stories about kindness today. That's our topic, kindness. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talking about kindness today. Simple acts of kindness. Everybody's been so open. I really enjoy that. Maybe I'll share one more story with you. It won't take long. When I was a boy, maybe 11 or 12 years old at the time, my grandfather suffered a debilitating stroke. He couldn't walk. He couldn't talk. It was terrible. And I remember when that happened, my parents were in the process of selling their house because they were building a new house in a new housing development on the outskirts of town. And you know what it's like when you're trying to sell a house. You're dealing with real estate agents and showings, and the house always has to be spick and span and showroom ready. And my parents work full time, and 2 young boys, and then this stroke took over their lives. It just turned their world upside down, distracted them from everything else. And they had just returned from the hospital one night where my grandfather was being treated, and the real estate agent showed up with somebody who wanted to see the house. There was a scheduled viewing of the house. My parents just totally forgot about it because of everything that was going on in their lives. And I remember my father explaining to the real estate agent, what had happened, and can't show the house right now. We got all this stuff going on. The house is a mess. And the real estate agent was very understanding, very compassionate about the situation. So were the people who were standing on the doorstep to see the house. Everyone was so sympathetic. But I had never been exposed to anything like this before. I was just a young boy. And as the days went on, this is small town Canada, but it obviously had gotten around that my grandfather wasn't well. And as so many people have mentioned today, people just showed up out of the blue. Sometimes people you didn't really even know, dropping off food. Somebody mentioned casseroles, lasagnas, shepherd's pie, stuff like that. Because neighbors know, right, how chaotic life can be. Life can be when those sorts of things happen. It was just it came to me as I was getting ready for the show. Just one of those memories of neighbors and towns and how people do come together when life is hard and when people need help, and they do little acts of kindness. What about you? You been in a jam, needed a helping hand, a boost? I'm not just talking about dead car batteries, but a boost to the spirit. 1-833-668-2577. Zach is in Calgary. Hello, Zach. Hi, Zach.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Zach.
There's so many people there's so many people I could recognize for random acts of kindness. I have 3 that I'd love to share with you if you have the time.
All right. Sure.
The first one, the men in my family are pretty tough cookies, but shortly after my parents' divorce, my dad's new place burnt down from a neighbor's fire. He lost a lot in his life the past few years, and now that included basically everything he owned physically. Well, the neighborhood Catholic church, the A&W, and the community, they all got together and provided huge support for him and us in that dark time. The grocery store I worked at also found out and filled a cart full of groceries and a turkey dinner for the holidays. It was it was really moving act of kindness from the church and the community. The second one is a less direct act, but it stuck with me deeply. As I alluded to, I come from a broken home, and it made me cynical for a little while. But despite the fears, I got married, and my wife gave us a beautiful baby girl. The day after she was born, my mother-in-law went into the hospital, dying from her battle with cancer. I took 2 weeks off work to help my wife recover, and about a day after I got back to work, my mother-in-law died, and it was a lot to go through all at once. A big roller coaster.
I bet.
But seeing my father-in-law support and stand behind his wife in those last, sometimes ugly moments, it was moving. And I told him that. I said, seeing this was really inspiring for me to see. And he just humbly responded with, "Of course, that's what we sign up for." And he made this oath decades ago, and he took it seriously, and that sticks with me to this day. But okay, one more. This is a little more lighthearted, but it shows the character of my maternal grandfather. So just quick context for the story. I broke my back in high school. It's fine now, but it's a long story. I won't get into it. So I was helping him work on a truck in his garage, and we went to push it into the shop. And I just hopped in the truck quickly to put it into neutral, and I see my old grandfather going to the back to push the truck in. I say, "Grandpa, what are you doing? I'll push the truck in." And this 75-year-old sore man says, No, you steer, buddy. I don't want you to hurt your back."
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, Zach. Thank you for your call and your stories. Who is up next? Jesse is up next. Hi, Jesse.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for taking my
Jesse.
call.
My pleasure. What's your story?
I just wanted to say there that my dad, he's like 75 years old too. He's up in Drayton Valley, and he's going down a dirt road there. Well, I shouldn't say dirt. It was snow. And he went to turn left, and the car didn't turn left. It turned right, and, you kind of panic. He slams on the brakes, and, he's on the road by himself. Out of the blue, this car comes out of nowhere. This guy gets out, and he goes, "Just so you know, I'm an off-duty police officer, and can I help you?" He gets under there. He finds the part that my dad needs. He goes all the way into town to Drayton Valley, gets the part, comes back, fixes my dad's car on the side of the highway on his day off. And yeah, and then my dad tried to pay him and everything else. He wouldn't take any money. So I just wanted to give kudos out there, like off-duty police officer, everything else. Just, it was beautiful.
That's great. Thank you, Jesse, for that story. Kindness, simple acts of kindness today on Talkback. Those stories coming. Very inspiring today. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are gathering stories today about simple acts of kindness. At 1-833-668-2577. Very inspiring stories today. James is in Calgary, I believe. James, are you with me?
Hi. Yeah, I'm still with you.
Yeah, very good. James, what's your story?
I'm in Elmira, though. Elmira, Ontario.
Oh, okay. Elmira, Ontario. My mistake, James. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. It's kind of a simple story, if you will, but I'll try not to take up too much time. The stories I've been enjoying very much on the whole here. Thank you for that. Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
My mother used to take in people, especially if it was cold out. It's been a cold winter this year. She used to take in people, and she couldn't handle seeing somebody. She couldn't stand the thought of being warm when somebody else is cold. Right? And I remember that growing up. My father was a little bit different because he's like, God damn it, we can't afford to feed everybody honey. And that's my name. My mother's name was Honey Beaupre. Anyway, she that always stuck with me as a kid. And when my parents passed away, I took on the house. And I carried on that kind of tradition, maybe to a fault, because sometimes kindness is a weakness to some people. And, in doing so, I kind of fell under the gun, fell behind the mortgage payments. The mortgage payments went through the roof, and I lost the home, became homeless. And my mother, she used to be at this quilting club. It was at Rockaway Gardens. She used to quilt people quilts for the homeless people. And, I remember before she passed away with kids, she made one for each of the kids. We had 5 siblings. I have 4 siblings, so 5 including me. And she did them in our favorite colors and whatnot. So here I was homeless, and I'm getting kicked out of the motel. And a friend of mine comes over. She goes, I'd like to get this back if you get back on your feet because it's my favorite colors. And she handed me this blanket because I had lost it through the years. My mom's been gone 20-some years. And here it was a blanket that was stolen from my home. And I thought, and it was the one my mother quilted. And I thought, Jesus Murphy, it's not something it's like Chris Garrett's with me or whatever, taking care of me still. And I just thought I'd share that with you because if it wasn't for that girl that thought that she had this thing, and she had it all.
That must have meant a lot to you. That must have had such tremendous sentimental value for you. I mean,
when I told her about it, I even had pictures of it on my phone. I showed her. And she goes, well, I can't really ask for it back. This is yours. It belongs to you. And I just thought, even the thought that she thought of me being cold or whatever,
right.
I'm back on my feet now and everything. Everything's good. But I just thought, hearing your stories, I thought I'd throw that one in.
Well, that's incredible. And you're doing okay now? You got a place to live now?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm in Elmira. I got myself I used to make 7 figures at one time, and it's funny how, life can turn in a heartbeat. One thing can lead to another thing and the next thing, I'm quick. I used to be quick to judge as a young person, but not so much now anymore.
Right.
I learned a lot.
There by the grace of God, right? Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. Yeah. Bye-bye. Emmanuel up next in Calgary, I believe. Emmanuel? Eric. Okay, let's try Eric in Red Deer then. Okay. Hi, Eric.
Yeah, hi. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Eric. How are you doing?
Good. It's sunny. It's blue sky out here, +3, and we're enjoying the weather.
Well, that's very good. I'm very jealous.
Yeah.
It's about -12 here, so send it this way.
I have a kind of what do they call it? A lady, we were at Walmart the other day, and we were going through the cash, buying our stuff that we needed, hygiene products and some meat and stuff. And being seniors, it's tough because, the rent's going up every year, groceries are going through the roof, and et cetera, et cetera. So we were just lined up at the cash, and my wife likes talking to people and stuff, and there was a lady behind us with a little 3-year-old girl sitting in the shopping cart, and she started talking to her. And our groceries were going through the scanner. And there was a lady in front of us, and she was paying for her groceries, and her cart was full. And my wife and I, we looked at each other, and being married for 56 years, you don't have to say anything. All you have to do is look at her eyes, and we already know what she's thinking about, that her grocery bill, this lady's grocery bill, was probably into the $500, $600, $700. And we said to ourselves, how can somebody afford that? Wow. So it just happened that we had our backs turned, and the lady paid for our groceries without us knowing.
Wow.
Yeah, $110. And once we realized that, she was already trying to walk out of the store with her shopping cart. And I yelled at her, and I said, thank you. And she just raised her arm, and she said, you're very welcome. So when we walked out of the store towards our vehicle, she just happened to be parked next to our vehicle. And just as we're loading up our groceries, she backed up and she lowered her window and she just waved at us and she drove off. And I said to myself, that's an angel in disguise. My gosh. That was wonderful. And it just happened that we were tight on Monday and we were trying to pay our rent on time and that kind of stuff as seniors.
It couldn't have happened at a better time. Couldn't have happened at a better time, right? Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Somebody paying it forward, I guess. Maybe they've been helped out in the past by an act of kindness. Thank you. In Red Deer, Eric, thank you. Be right back. More of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
A few more minutes for a few more stories about kindness today. John is in Taber, Alberta. Hi, John.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, hi, John. What's your story?
It's an act of kindness. My mom is 98 years old, and she has glaucoma in her eyes. And here about 4 years ago, we had to take her to Calgary, to the clinic, to get her eyes checked. And me and my brother took her there, and on the way up at Nanton, there was a little Mazda car in front of me in the 2-lane. So he hit something on the road, and I just seen right away that he busted his front tire. And it was about 3 weeks before Christmas. So I said to my brother, let's help this guy. So I did a U and I came back. And then he said, I've got to get this tire fixed, but I don't know how the jack works. He had it almost there to the point. You know those little bitty shitty tires they have just to get you from point A to point B?
Yeah, sure.
In the trunk. Anyway, he couldn't get it up far enough. So I said to my brother, you take the front, I'll take the fender. So we lifted it up and he slipped it on, tied the nuts, and then he said, I have to be at the airport because I'm going to Arizona to see my son for an early Christmas. So away he went. Anyway, about 2 weeks later, the real Christmas came along. So I was in Lethbridge, and I was walking the mall with my wife, and here Santa was sitting down at the far end. And he called, hey, John. I said, what's up? So I walked down there. He said, you're the guy that helped me at Nanton with my car. I barely made it to the airport. So he reached underneath his chair and gave me a beautiful box of mouth-watering chocolates.
There you go. You got your just reward in the end.
So I had the chocolates, and he had his beautiful trip to Arizona to see his
Awesome.
his son and his wife.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good.
You have yourself
thank
a
you.
wonderful day.
You have yourself a wonderful day too. Tim, if you can fit it in a minute, I'd love to hear your story, Tim.
Yeah. Hey, Rob. Nice talking to you again. Not that long ago, my dad, was sorry, it's not really true. Was walking his dogs in Calgary there in the southeast, and there's 2 Scottish Terriers, and it was about 7:30 at night, and he walked in just like his normal routine, and he was walking, and all of a sudden he turned. There was this car that was. He honked his horn. He was just honking his horn like crazy, and he turned around, and here was a coyote trying to stalk my parents, his dogs.
Oh my
gosh. The guy, actually, he went so far as he actually he used his car to chase away the coyote. So needless to say, they were okay and everybody was safe. So just a random act of kindness.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, good one to end the program on today. Thank you. The day is not done. Lots of news ahead. We'll be back tomorrow with the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. This is News Radio.